there lived a man named Tunde. He was the kind of man who found peace in the smell of fresh harmattan mornings, the music of birds at dawn, and the comfort that came from an honest day's work. Though he ran a modest building materials business in the outskirts of Ibadan, Tunde lived simply. He didn't care much for flamboyance or showing off. He believed that money was to be earned with sweat, spent with sense, and saved for a rainy day. But he made one exception: his wife, Amaka, and their 2 children. For them, he would move mountains. Amaka was striking, the kind of woman whose beauty made people turn twice. Her eyes were sharp and calculating, her tongue even sharper. She carried herself like someone born for more luxury, more status, more life. She adored lace fabrics from Switzerland, gold-plated jewelry, and the scent of imported perfumes. But more than any of these, she loved the idea of a life beyond Ibadan, one filled with glamour and recognition. Tunde, ever patient, ever adoring, never held her ambitions against her. If she dreamt of the stars, he would try to bring down the moon. He bought her what she admired, indulged her taste, and ignored her frequent criticisms and flaring temper. They had 2 children: Femi, Tunde's son from his late first wife, and Adora, the daughter he and Amaka had together. Femi was a reserved, observant boy who always seemed older than his years. The loss of his mother had left a quiet sorrow in his soul. Adora, still a toddler, was full of sunshine, her laughter like a breeze that cooled the most tense moments in the household. Their home was far from perfect, but it was stitched together with fleeting moments of joy. The walls bore framed photographs, some faded with age, others recent, each telling a silent story of a family trying to hold on. Most evenings, Tunde would sit on a plastic chair by the veranda, sipping zobo, listening to his children play, and thanking God for the life he had. But fate, as it often does, had its own plans. One evening, just after the call to Maghrib prayer echoed in the distance, Tunde returned home from a site visit, bloodied and broken. A slab of concrete had collapsed due to substandard supports, crushing part of the scaffolding. His agbada was torn, his face bruised, and a long cut split his forehead. Amaka screamed when she saw him, panic overtaking her usual icy composure. But Tunde, always stubborn, waved off the worry. He refused a hospital visit. "Nah, small thing," he said, gritting his teeth through the pain. "By tomorrow, I go day all right." By morning, he collapsed. The hospital was cold and sterile, filled with the sharp smell of antiseptic and the hum of machines. Amaka paced the hallway, her acrylic nails tapping against her phone screen, her eyes rimmed with fatigue. Hours passed before the doctor came out, his face solemn. "Madam," he began, "your husband has lost his sight. The optic nerves are severely damaged. I'm afraid it's permanent." Amaka froze. It was as if the world had gone mute. The doctor's words echoed in her head, each one heavier than the last. Her knees buckled. Reality slapped her harder than any wind. For a few days, Amaka cried. She mourned the man who once held her world together. But her grief quickly turned to frustration, then to resentment. Blindness changed Tunde's life and theirs. He could no longer work. He fumbled about the house, knocking over stools, misplacing his cane, reaching into thin air. He became someone she didn't recognize, vulnerable, dependent, a burden. Amaka tried to hold things down at first. She cooked. She helped him shower. She paid the workers at the shop. But slowly, the warmth in her began to fade. She started snapping at him. "You no fit do anything again," she would yell. She began mocking his blindness to anyone who would listen, dressing him in pity by day and stripping him of dignity by night. Femi bore the worst of it. Amaka treated him like a curse, blaming him for everything from Tunde's accident to the rising cost of petrol. But Femi never spoke a word back. He remained by his father's side, helping him navigate his new world. He was quiet strength. Tunde said nothing. He never raised his voice. Even in darkness, he searched for Amaka's hand at night. He still thanked her for every meal. Still believed, maybe foolishly, that the woman he loved would eventually return to him. Amaka took over the business. She struggled at first, suppliers cheated her, laborers walked away, and the books made no sense. But over time, her ambition rose like Lagos traffic at rush hour. She grew tougher, sharper, and colder. One day, Tunde called his oldest friend, Chikwudi, who had once helped him build the business. Tunde trusted him like a brother. "I want you to support Amaka," Tunde said. "She day try, but it's too much. I know one makes you break." Chikwudi agreed. But Tunde had one request. "Tell me everything. How she day do? What in day happen?" Chikwudi nodded. Time moved. And love didn't. Amaka's frustration turned to indifference, then to hate. She saw Tunde as the man who dragged her back to a life she never wanted. She found solace elsewhere, in the arms of a wealthy cement magnate named Chief Olumide. Their affair was wrapped in shadows, but known to many, including Femi, whose silent presence caught more than words ever could. But Tunde, he saw it all. Because one quiet morning, months after the accident, his sight returned. He opened his eyes to a world of harsh light and vivid betrayal. But he said nothing. Not to Amaka. Not to Femi. Not even to Chikwudi. He continued to act blind. And he watched. He saw her kiss Chief Olumide behind the Hilux. Saw her transfer company funds into secret accounts. Saw her parade herself around town like a queen without a king. He said nothing. Instead, he began to collect evidence. Audio, photos, financial documents. Not out of revenge, but because he needed to understand how love had rotted into malice. Then came the day of judgment. Tunde arranged a business dinner. He invited Chief Olumide, told Chikwudi to bring Femi and Adora. Amaka, unaware, wore her finest lace and dabbed on her most expensive perfume. As they sat to eat, Tunde remained silent. Then, calmly, he stood and turned directly toward them. I can see. Silence. Amaka's spoon dropped. Olumide looked like he'd swallowed hot pepper. Femi's eyes widened. Adora looked up from her food, confused. I've been seeing for weeks, Tunde said. I saw the betrayal, the deceit, the shame. He turned to Femi. I'm sorry you carried this burden alone. Then to Amaka, his voice sharp as broken glass. I loved you with everything. I turned a blind eye when I was still seeing. And now, truly blind or not, I see you clearly. Amaka tried to lie, but Chikwudi played the recordings. The files were opened. Chief Olumide tried to leave, but Chikwudi stood at the door. The company was reclaimed. The affair became public gossip. Friends disappeared. The whispers grew louder. Amaka was left alone. Weeks later, she wandered through Bodija Market, tattered and distant. There, she met an old woman seated beside a basket of herbs. You mocked the one who gave you his soul, the woman said. You'll carry this darkness for the rest of your life. Amaka scoffed. Old women and their walla. But misfortune came quickly. Her new business crumbled. Landlords evicted her. Her health deteriorated. She tried to return to Tunde, pleading, weeping, but he was gone. Gone without a word. No one knew where. Not even Chikwudi. Amaka searched, through Ibadan, through Lagos. But it was as if he had vanished with the wind. Femi eventually inherited the company. A calm, upright man. Adora grew, still laughing, but with more wisdom behind her eyes. And Tunde, some say he settled in Akwa Ibom by the sea. Others say he found peace in the hills of Mambilla Plateau. Amaka lived out her days in a one-room hut near Okadu. Every morning, she sat outside the gate of their former home, waiting, hoping. But Tunde never came. And in the end, it wasn't the blindness that had darkened Tunde's world. It was the darkness in Amaka's heart. A darkness she would carry forever.